Fixers, and welcome to another Fixit Fingers Fiver. Today, detailed resin work. Now, I don't do a lot of rivet tables, or indeed any rivet tables, or things that require a huge amount of resin. What I'm generally interested in is adding pops of colour to signs and other small projects where, I'm using in the hundreds of mils rather than in the litres. But I've done enough of them to learn a few quick tricks, which I would like to share with you guys, that's going to make your journey, particularly starting out in resin, that much easier and also help to get your results a bit more consistent and pretty. Let's see what we got. Okie dokie. Well, the first thing about doing small, complex resin shapes, such as in a sign where you're trying to fill up lettering, is how much resin do you need? That can be quite tricky to estimate. Geometric shapes, yeah, you can do some mathematics, but there is another way. Resin is not cheap. Doesn't matter if you've got the crap stuff, good stuff, anywhere in between, you are paying a lot of money for the privilege of putting plastic into your woodwork. So, by estimating accurately, we waste less and we save more. And I'm nothing if not a tight ass. Here is my golden trick. Rice. I don't actually remember where I first saw this or if I came up with it myself. I'm sure other people have too. Rice is brilliant. It'll cost you very, very little to absolutely nothing, and of course you can get it everywhere. After you have carved out your complex shape, fill that with some rice. Then you'll be able to just pick up your board, tip it back into a container, or I put out a sheet as well sometimes, and then you can measure the volume of the rice that you have at about 10% just for extras, and then you've got a very good guess to how much resin you will need, and you will end up wasting very little. Always do make that a little bit more, because there's nothing worse than being caught short. And if you're doing multicolour stuff, you can just divide by 2, 3, however many colours you want. Simple rice into your molds is going to save you a bunch of guesswork and a bunch of money too. Okay, so we know how much resin we need, but before we even start thinking about pouring it, you want to grab yourself some of this. Now, I'll have links below as to where you can get it. In Australia, I use the Feast Watson. I think there's a Minwax one for you folks overseas off Amazon that does pretty much the same thing. It is grain filling sanding sealer, and I have got a whole video on this, which I will link above. The short version is, wood grain likes to absorb fluids, including your resin. Now, you can just do a little quick cheeky fill coat, but then you've got to wait for the resin to cure and dry, whereas this will go off in a couple of hours and is much, much easier and cheaper to use. The name of the game is, by painting it on over the surface as well, you're going to fill in particularly the pores along the grain and stop bleed. Here's a little example of what I mean, of an unfilled versus a sealed solution. Getting those colours to stay nice and crisp will mean that when you have finished, you're not going to see sort of wavy, smudgy edges. You're going to hopefully have nice, clean definition. And it is an essential step I do every time I'm doing any sort of infill resin work, particularly if you are using colour. As an added bonus, it will also help if you get any accidentally on the top, it not soak in and you have to sand off more and more to get rid of that colour from the surface of your sign. So sanding sealer, an absolute essential when I'm doing my resin signs. So we know how much resin we want, we've sealed up our workpiece, now we're going to mix. Not here to talk about what type of resin you want, but regardless of which one you use, this is the Perfect Cast, which I get from Carbotech. Do keep an eye on the expiry. I've noticed that mine is 3 years old and it's starting to go a little bit yellow, so I couldn't use this for clear applications. However, with colour, I only made this sign very recently, the old resin still works. That's a bonus tip for you. But do buy just what you need. Try not to have it sitting on your shelf for too long. When we come to mixing, nothing beats these silicone cups. Now obviously, again, I'm working in small amounts, so these are 8 ounces, there we go, 250 mil. So yeah, one imperial cup, and they get me through most of my work. I've also got smaller ones, allows you to do different colours, and these ones are great for very small detailed work, and they're also little pourers. The main advantage of silicone over plastic, glass, or any other sort of containers is you don't need to clean them. You just leave the resin in there to go off once you've finished, and any residue that's stuck to it will simply pop straight out. meaning they're incredibly easy to clean. They're also very cheap. You can get them off Amazon. Again, I'll put some links below, and you'll find all sorts of weird and wonderful kits for jewelry makers and stuff like that too. But these measuring cups, really, really good buy. But what if you're doing something very tricky or fiddly? Plastic syringes, obviously not the stabby type, the more medicine formula type that have got the open tip on them. And you can clean these out, but you're going to treat them pretty much as disposable. You'll get a few uses out of them before they are, well, so gunked up that they don't work anymore. Good news is they are also inexpensive. They come in a variety of sizes, and if you're doing fiddly work or you're trying to fill lettering very precisely without spilling over the top, maybe you're doing a different colour for each letter, or you have some other fine detail work, then these things are brilliant. Pick yourself up a number of them and you won't regret it. Last but not least is not a product, but more a design choice and technique. Particularly if, like me, you're in a tiny workshop, you're working on small things, and you don't have any big machinery. I don't have a thicknesser, and I don't have a really powerful sander of any description, so you can choose to not fill the resin all the way. I think typical practice would be to what they call overfill. So you've got your sign and then you put the resin in so it goes over the top of the wood and you sort of dam up around the outside, and then once it's cured and gone off, you plane or sand it all the way back in order to have the resin perfectly lined up with the height of your timber. And that is going to give you the best result by far and away. You can sand it, you can grab some custom grit by Scotty and polish it up to a beautiful, nice shine, and you'll get beautiful, clean results. I don't want to go through that effort a lot of the time. So what I do is underfill. You'll notice there's some 3D depth here because when I put my resin in, I've been very careful to not go over the top. I still have to sand a little bit, but it gives a nice 3D effect. And importantly, I don't have to surface everything off using a router sled or something that's going to be very, very time consuming for me. It's not always practical to do that, but where you can, it's a lovely option. Effectively, you're not going to get as good a surface on there, I find. You're going to get things landing in your resin perhaps and you can't sand them off. You get your tiny flecks of dust. You get any bubbles that you've missed when you're burning them off on the top, you'll see those too. So you do have a few considerations. On small projects though, you can get away with it and have quite a nice looking coloured finish, particularly without any of the elbow grease of sanding. So particularly when you're starting out, consider underfilling. You'll save yourself some work, and if you're happy with the results, you'll know where to use that in the future. That's a very quick Fixit Fingers fiver this time around. Check out the playlist for other lists of getting started in various aspects of woodworking, and please do consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoyed what you see today. This is James from Fixit Fingers Woodworking. I'll catch you next time.